A very good evening to you. I am Lisa Lord, and my special guest is the Minister of Youth, Sport and Community Empowerment, the Honorable Charles Griffith. Minister Griffith, thank you so much for joining us on the program for the first time.
Pleasure is mine, Lisa. The pleasure is mine.
All right, so your ministry just hosted a successful Youth Week from all accounts. If you could just give us a synopsis of what happened during Youth Week.
Yes, well, we did have a successful Youth Week. This is an attempt to reach our young people, and we have packed the program with youth focus events. We have taken the ministry to different communities to ensure that our young people have access to all of the services that are involved. We kicked off the week with that wonderful youth service at the gymnasium. And it was a pleasure hearing from young people, positive young people in terms of their journey and some of the things that they wish for their peers in terms of their development. So yes, the Youth Week was extremely positive. We're going to close the Youth Week with a cricket match.
That's today.
To honor one of our fallen employees, a former employee, Richard Herbert. And that is in keeping with us in terms of how we treat to staff and our young people.
Now, while you had a successful Youth Week, and we can always talk about the positives, we do have some challenges facing our young people.
Yes.
Chief among them is employment, or unemployment rather, and them finding real opportunities. What is your ministry doing to help young people find opportunities and get jobs?
Well, we have a very successful employability program here at the ministry. And this program is working in concert with a number of agencies. And what we're trying to do is to match the skill sets with the different agencies in particular. Only recently we had a workshop that was based on agriculture, where we had about maybe 40 or so young persons so interested in agriculture. And this workshop is going to provide information for them in terms of all that is available within the agriculture sector. In addition to that, the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme is one of our flagship programs here at the ministry. And this provides our young people with an opportunity to be trained in terms of how to run a successful business. And one of the things, Lisa, that we're doing is to make sure now that our program is certified. So for too long, we have been running the program and persons were getting a certificate of participation. One of the things that is happening at the ministry is that we are looking to certify every single training program that is coming out of the ministry. And this includes the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme. We are working in partnership with the University of the West Indies to ensure that that particular program is now certified for those young persons who are looking to get started in business. So when you go into their particular business, you will see a certificate now that is saying, I am certified or I'm qualified to be involved in this particular sector. So we're doing what is necessary at the ministry. Everything is evolving, and we're trying to be as proactive as possible as it relates to the issues that are impacting our young people.
You mentioned working with several agencies. You just mentioned the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme. Which other agencies are you working with?
No, this will be agencies from the private sector.
Right.
So business houses are calling us and saying, look, we need to have persons in this particular area. Can you provide these young people? But we're not just sending the young people, we're taking them through a process of training in terms of when they hit the workforce, how they should handle themselves, how they should function in an environment. And this was not done before. So we're doing what is necessary to, empower our young people.
And just over a week ago, you announced that YES would be offering services, hopefully, to the region.
Yes, no, that is something that I'm very excited about, because we have been on island for more than a decade. And one of the things that we're looking to do now is to expand our services. So if we can offer this service throughout the region, then it is good for us because it is expanding the service from YES, and it is also looking to bring foreign exchange into the island. And hopefully by next year, that particular initiative should be up and running, where we can offer the whole Caribbean and maybe outside of the Caribbean, if necessary, those particular services that are provided through YES.
No, education doesn't fall under your portfolio at all. However, it is one of the areas that concerns young people in terms of them complaining that they're not having adequate access to higher education.
Yes. And we are doing at the ministry what we have to facilitate that as well. And I'll explain. One of our programs, the Get Into program, this is providing persons who were not able to meet the entry-level requirements for Paul Marine, for the Simon Jackman Prescott Polytechnic, to get involved in the programs that are happening at those two institutions. The Barbados Vocational Training Board is also another area. So what we're doing, Lisa, is providing a second chance for persons. And I will expand that a little more as well, because the boys on the blocks. Now, this is an area that is kind of a bugbear for society. These guys are on the blocks. We have just put together a block committee that is headed by Marcus Stevens. And this block committee would have visited in excess of 100 blocks already, gathering information as to their needs, what it is that these youngsters who are on the blocks want to get involved in. And in addition to that, we're registering youngsters for the same institutions that I mentioned just now, SJPI and Paul Marine. So you have a guy on the block with no qualifications that is able to access training at Paul Marine, training at SJPI, where the required entry level is like 4 CXCs. But the ministry is providing an opportunity through a program, because we're paying to have those programs put on for these particular youngsters who, like I said, are looking for that second chance.
But do you find that there's still that stigma attached to the blocks as in years gone by?
Yeah, there's definitely a stigma attached to the blocks. Look, I worked with the blocks for 4 years, doing nothing else but interacting with those guys. And I would want to say that, you know, it is a social construct that all of these blocks are bad. Because from going among these youngsters, most of them are looking just for a second chance. And if we can reintegrate these guys back into society, then I think that government would have done a wonderful job in terms of facilitating those needs. In addition to that, what we are doing now is working directly with the prison service. So what we're doing, we're looking at the population that fits our age range. So we're going up to 29. And we already have persons from in the prison system that would have registered to do programs when they exit the system. One of the things we're looking to do as well is to try to start the programs online, so that they do, if you want to call it the theory online, but when they exit the system, they get involved in the practical component of those particular programs. So, you know, we need to give these guys a second chance if that is what they're looking for. And government is doing everything. My ministry is being proactive in terms of reaching that particular demographic.
Now, you mentioned your relationship with the prison. More and more of our young people, particularly young men, are getting involved in violent criminal activity. We've seen that over the last few months,
Yes.
Especially. What is your ministry doing to work with at-risk youth and deal with crime amongst the young people?
Well, 2 initiatives come to mind. One, we have a life skill component here, where all of our programs as well, we're looking to inject life skills into the training programs. So, for example, those guys who are coming from the blocks, they will be able to have programs that will deal with anger management, conflict resolution. These are things that are embedded in the program. In addition to that, very soon we will be launching a national mentorship program. And this mentorship program is one that I think is needed, because, you know, mental health and other issues are impacting our young people. So if we can have this mentorship program happening for these youngsters, then it is one of the ways to mitigate some of the challenges that they are facing. A separate and distinct program would be one called Moving On, that we are looking to implement at the national level as well. And Moving On is in the primary school. We are seeking to target those youngsters who are doing the 11 plus program and moving on to secondary school. So we're providing, again, a real holistic program for them that will speak to leadership, the same anger management, conflict resolution, a whole range of topics that when they move to secondary school, they'll be carrying what I call a basket of deliverables to deal with the problems that they will encounter maybe at secondary school. So you should be a leader when you move away from primary school. You will have knowledge that you can then impact your peers in relation to how you treat to, violence, how you treat to conflict resolution. So these are some of the programs that the ministry will shortly be putting in place to deal with the issues that you have just mentioned.
There's also the prevalence of drug use with even primary school children, smoking and drinking. What is your ministry doing there?
What we're doing, there's an anti-violence campaign, and that anti-violence campaign will deal also with the issues of drugs. How do you deal with drugs? How do you, say no to drugs? So this is something, again, like in our summer camps, we try as much as possible to inject and to infuse these kind of topics that we believe will strengthen the capacity of our young persons in terms of saying no to illegal drugs.
Now that you mentioned the summer camp, you just had a successful summer camp program. Tell me about how it went.
Yeah, our summer camp program, we had about 43 camps, and these camps were very, very successful in terms of providing what do you call it, an environment, a safe environment for our young people. And the truth is that we're all inclusive. So this year we had 2 disability camps involved in the process because we need to embrace everyone. And those 2 camps were successful as well in terms of the programs. We had no major problems at all this year in the camp system, and that is a blessing. What we're hoping to do next year is to expand as well. So we use a scaffolding approach at the ministry. We're building on the success stories that we have going forward. And the camps, the camps are voluntary. Persons volunteer their time to be involved in the process, and I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to them, because what they're doing is impacting the lives of our young people in a structured environment.
And you do defend that it is money well spent.
Money very, very well spent. Very well spent. I mean, like I said, a structured environment, and you have a whole range of activities that were provided for those persons over the 5-week period. It was so successful that we're having requests now to expand the number of weeks that we usually would have summer camps.
What is happening with the much touted National Youth Policy?
The National Youth Policy is in its final stages. The committee that is tasked with dealing with that would have done all of the necessary research and carry out the investigations. So it is expected in short time that the youth policy will be in place. And this youth policy is dynamic, yes? And it is one of the roadmaps that we're using at the ministry to guide us in terms of the needs that our young people are identifying as problematic for them to progress. So it is a critical piece of, a critical document that we will look to see how we can hit all of the roadmap, so to speak, within the youth policy. So that is in place.
You're saying that it will be ready in a short time, but you're not telling me when.
I would say to you, if I had to provide timelines, I would say probably by the end of the year,
Okay.
The youth policy should be, the final document should be ready for persons to peruse.
Okay. You've worked amongst young people for a number of years. Earlier, you mentioned issues like anger management, conflict resolution. If you had to single out one issue that is affecting our young people the most, what would it be?
I would say employment. The fact that I'm tasked with providing assistance to 55 or so thousand young people in this country. And employment is one of the major issues that we are encountering, to find employment that is sustainable, employment for young persons that they can feel as if they are, self-actualizing. And it is something that we constantly work at. Hence the reason why we're pushing the entrepreneurship so heavy, because we believe that if our young persons get involved in self-employment, they will not necessarily only be satisfying self, but at some point in time, they may be able to become an employer and to employ another young person in their business. So that is the number one priority really in terms of our youth, employment. It is a constant.
Now, sports is a major part of your portfolio, but it's also one of the areas that you get the most criticism about. Looking at our elite athletes, persons like Shade Williams, Shane Brathwaite, Jonathan Jones, Amber Joseph, just to name a few, they've performed exceptionally well in recent times. And that's where the criticism comes, because that's when we see government going all out after they have done well. How do you respond to criticism that government is not putting enough support behind our athletes?
You know, it is a misnomer for me for persons to say that we're not putting resources in place to benefit the athletes. Government will never really come to the public and say that we're spending $50,000, $60,000 in support of athletes. But we do spend money in terms of supporting athletes. We facilitate scholarships. We provide funding for things like equipment for some of our athletes. These athletes that you mentioned would have taken their discipline to another level, to the fact that, yes, they would have made podium, and all of us in Barbados are proud of what they're doing. We are looking to expand the resources that we are providing our athletes with. Now, let me give you an example in terms of how we're treating to our athletes. Only recently, we would have launched the SATs program. And this particular program is providing resources to facilitate the tutoring of the SAT programs. And you and I know that persons cannot enter the college system in the US unless this program is in place. And again, our young people were being impacted. Some persons who have the skill sets, both the academics and the athletic skills, to go to these colleges. But finding the funding to pay for that particular tutoring was not in place. And we have decided that we are going to fund the program here at the ministry to make it easy for youngsters to be able to source that particular tutoring. And we have launched with 22 young persons, and we're going to walk them through the process to make sure that they are the ones who can benefit initially from this. Now, going forward, this is going to be an annual event. This is going to be an annual initiative that will continue to facilitate those young people. But you mentioned direct funding. The Arts and Sports Fund is there to provide funding for athletes who are aspiring to reach not only national, but Olympics. That is our push, to ensure that we can have individuals make podium at the Olympics, because that is the height of sports in relation to our athletes. So we're doing everything, Lisa, to make sure that the funding is in place to facilitate their needs. Again, persons are constantly saying not enough is done, but those people that are saying that are without knowledge as to what is happening in the background.
There are also persons that are of the opinion that the welcome reception and motorcade that we held, that money could have been diverted to athlete development.
You know, you would hear that at one end, but then they'll say you need to do something. The motorcade was in place to showcase and to have persons see our athletes. That money was spent for that purpose. Money will be budgeted to do more in relation to those athletes who we celebrated recently. I would have had a discussion with them to find out exactly what areas are stressors for them in terms of financing. And they have identified the areas that they would need resources in order to make things easier for them. And we are putting things in place to ensure that those resources are available to them based on what they would have identified as areas that would require financing for them.
Speaking about athlete development, athletes need some place proper to train. What is happening with the construction of a new national stadium?
Okay, so the national stadium has been the elephant in the room for a number of years. And I can say to you that I fully expect that by 2023, we will start construction of a new national stadium. 2023, because we are now in the negotiating phase of having that particular project up and running. So in 2023, we will see us breaking ground for the start of a new national stadium. In addition to that, we are now putting down a new 400 meters track at the Wilde facility. And this will be a kind of training ground, a training facility until the national stadium is up and running. But we are cognizant of the need for a national stadium. I am aware that we need a national stadium. And like I said, plans are in train that by 2023, we will start construction of a new national stadium.
You're also looking at the construction of mini stadia.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, the construction of mini stadia is one that we're looking to pilot as well. Right now, it is a question of resources to start because we're looking at between 10 and 15 mini stadia. This is an opportunity to impact another sector of my ministry, even though it is sports. This is speaking to community empowerment. And this would allow those clubs, teams that are functioning within the particular locale of the stadia that we're looking to develop to be able to have a cost recovery when certain events are staged where you can have a gate, you take money from persons to come in to watch the particular events. And this is an area that we are actively looking at. In addition to that, our lighting program is geared to also facilitate the development of these mini stadia. And we have in excess of 30 fields that were completed in relation to the lighting program. We have upscaled all of the lights at these particular locations to ensure that activities that are happening at night are in place. So it is something that is occupying my mind. It is something that is occupying the mind of the ministry in terms of the rollout. But resources is one of the things that is, stopping us from moving ahead at this point in time.
And on that point, do you think that corporate Barbados needs to do more?
Oh, yes. From the time I got to the ministry, I have been asking corporate Barbados to get involved in sponsorship of not only sports, but our youth in general. If we can have a portion of corporate Barbados marketing budget come to our young people in terms of development of sports, resources are required in terms of equipment. They can sponsor a team. They can sponsor a particular competition. If we get this in place, then we can do a lot more. Government will carry the bulk of this in terms, because we're mandated to do that. But, corporate Barbados is required, I mean really required, to come on board. If they can come on board, they don't have to come directly to the ministry to partner with us, but their sporting facilities within the location that they function. So you can go and upgrade, you can go and buy a machine to help cut the lawn. You can provide paint to spruce up facilities. These are things that corporate Barbados can get involved in. We have a situation, Lisa, where we have national athletes that are working in the private sector. And I dare say to you that you cannot probably go into 4 business houses and see the picture of one of our national athletes that is working in that particular organization anywhere in the building. And I think that, this is like not giving enough value to our national players, because they're working for you, they're representing country, which you can equate to national duty. But then you don't see anything. Apart from that, on the other side, you will see that their jobs are threatened when they go to represent our country. And I have mentioned before, it is difficult for you to concentrate on the field of play and be concerned as to if you're going to have a job when you return to our country. So corporate Barbados, I'm asking them to step up and play a greater part in the development of our youth and sports. And if we do that, then we can see a lot more benefit, a lot more individuals rising to the level that we want them to as far as sports is concerned.
Well, we still have a lot more to discuss. Minister, stay with us. You're watching One on One.
Let me begin preparations. It's hurricane season. Let me sit down and reason. Let me secure a nation. Know your shelters, Bajan. Help out one another against vibration. Develop emergency community plans so that we could function. Remove outdoor objects. Make sure that you're went to the ATM. Stock up with water. Make sure you clean the guttering, Lord. What about canned food? Make sure you got some stock up in your room. Make sure you prop up the paling and tie down the roof. Let me start to prepare real soon. Let me begin preparations. It's hurricane season. Let me sit down and reason. Let me secure a nation. Know your shelters, Bajan. Help out one another against vibration. Develop emergency community plans so that we could function. Keep it clean, keep it green.
Barbadians, we invite you to get involved and play your part as we clean and green Barbados. Come into your community with media launches, bulk waste collection exercises, community engagement sessions, and giveaways. Get on board. Let's keep Barbados clean and green.
beautiful, beautiful Barbados.
When does a mental health issue become a problem? When should you reach out for help? I'm Chris Hurdle, clinical psychologist and certified life coach. Mental health issues interrupt a person's daily functions. An issue becomes a disorder when a person isn't able to carry out their everyday activities like household duties, personal upkeep and hygiene, or interferes with their ability to function socially, to interact with others inside the household, or interferes with their ability to function on the job or carry out other activities. If a person finds themselves needing to self-isolate, losing touch with reality, or having an impaired ability to think, reason, or function, and if this occurs over a period of days, weeks, or months, then it is time that they reach out for help.
And welcome back. We're chatting with the Minister of Youth, Sport and Community Empowerment, the Honorable Charles Griffith. Minister, before the break, we were talking about sponsorship and corporate Barbados coming on board and assisting more with our athletes. One of the areas that calls out for sponsorship a lot is that of road tennis.
Road tennis is our indigenous sport,
Yes.
and part of our sports policy is to push road tennis to a level where we can have it recognized internationally. Recently, we would have done a very, very successful road tennis championship where all of the technology was involved. You had a case where line technology was seen on island probably for the first time at the road tennis finals. What we have done, we have painted at least 200 or 250 courts across this country. And we have not done that as a case of just putting the courts in place. This was done because communities requested that we put these courts at particular locations. Now, one of the things we're looking to do is to export road tennis. And by that, I mean, we have had some inquiries from a couple African nations in relation to starting road tennis over at in their countries. And we are training, we're in the process of training at least 20 coaches in road tennis for that particular purpose, to ensure that we had some hits from the European Union as well, in terms of having sports travel, the road tennis travel as well. Now, the only way that we can do that is if we have qualified coaches through the National Sports Council to be able to go and provide the training that is necessary for persons. We have developed the booklet with all the rules and the guidelines as to how road tennis should be played. And that is something that will travel with the coaches whenever they go in terms of providing it. We had some concerns about the cost of the road tennis, but I'm saying that that particular competition showed that it was necessary. What we did with the road tennis was to start the program at community levels. So the initial phase of that particular tournament was played outside, St. John, St. Philip, different locations across the country, as opposed to playing in 2 or 3 particular locations as the norm. And the feedback was tremendous. You know, we had in excess of 150 persons involved in the competition, and we fully expect that the competition would grow. At the same time that I was asking for sponsorship, for the final, sponsorship came on board. And we're hoping that from the very start of our next competition that sponsorship will be in place as well. We had at least 3,000 persons watching the semifinals at the gymnasium, and that number would have increased at the finals. So it is clearly an indication that persons on island are embracing the road tennis. Everywhere you go now, Lisa, you will see that road tennis is being played. And we're pleased about that because it is getting our youngsters involved in, you know, moving. They're involved in an activity that is providing exercise, because you have to be fit to play road tennis. And from that aspect, we're pleased about what is happening in road tennis. We are looking now to, like I said, move it even further ahead. And if we can do that and we can get it in the region and outside of the region, then I think we would have been doing what we're supposed to do in terms of promoting road tennis as a sport that is traveling, that is moving forward.
Now, I know more Barbadians would like to, represent their country at the national level, but there is the belief that to be a professional athlete is not worth it because they're not paid like their counterparts overseas. Do you think that perhaps government needs to look at, paying a little more to our professional athletes?
Well, the onus is on the national federations to trigger that, Lisa. I believe that the national federation should be thinking in terms of starting semi-professional sports here. And if they do that, then we can grow into professionals. We can look to export persons. Now, we have, for example, volleyball, netball. There are other countries in the Caribbean where some of their players are playing professionally in Australia and these type of places. But the onus is, my belief, the onus is on the national federations. If you come to government and you say, look, we are looking to move in a particular direction in terms of turning our sports into a professional entity, then government will look to see how best we can help you to get to that particular location. But we are not in the business of managing national federations. There are executives on board to do exactly that. If you need the assistance of government, then you come to us and say, look, we have a shortfall here. Can you assist us in terms of providing these particular resources? It may be financial resources or it may be contributions in kind. And if that is the case, then we would do that. Contributions in kind in the sense that, for example, the gymnasium. If you need to have the gymnasium to stage a tournament or to move to that level, then we can make, we can make that available to you. But the national federations must be the one to trigger that professional and semi-professional move in terms of their particular disciplines.
Let's look at human resources. Is the National Sports Council adequately staffed to give you the results that you would want?
Okay, the National Sports Council is a developmental entity, meaning that our primary task right now is to develop sports, all sports on island. And we have coaches that are qualified to deliver and to do that. At the same time that I'm saying that we're in the process of restructuring the National Sports Council to ensure that we are, let me use that phrase, fit for purpose, that we're able to deliver even at a higher level going forward, to make sure that things like you're talking about in terms of the professionalism of sports, having persons now being able to earn a living. The National Sports Council should be able to provide that assistance in terms of guiding the process. We have persons on board who would have gone through planning of events. So we can reach out to the federations. So in terms of the resources that you're talking about, I'm fairly comfortable in my mind that we have them there. What we are doing is to try to strengthen the personnel there as well. So the restructuring process will involve bringing in additional human resources to sort of fill up those areas that we see where there are gaps.
Your ministry would have held discussions with the Barbados Defense Force regarding its sports program. Where are we with that program coming back on stream?
Yeah, we had some discussions with the Chief of Staff, and he's very, very keen of bringing he's very keen to have the program restarted. And I think it is in the interest of the country as well, as far as sports is concerned, to have the program restarted. Finances was an issue in terms of the program coming to an end. And he's looking to see how best that he can find resources. And we also are looking to see where we can find the finances to inject some fund into the program so that we can have a restart. One of the things that this program is doing is providing a high level of discipline for those persons who engage in that particular program. Now, I'm not saying that the discipline outside of the Barbados Defense Program is missing, but I'm saying it is heightened at that particular program. So we're trying, we had discussions, hopefully next year or sooner. If the resources are there again, we can start the program. I know one of the national federations, they have some funds that came from their international federation that would allow them to have their particular segment of sports back into the national, into the Defense Force program.
You mentioned discipline, and that's something that comes up regarding some of our athletes in terms of them not taking what they're doing as seriously as they should, be it training, eating, etc. Are you seeing that?
I can't speak to it directly in terms of seeing individual cases of it, but I know that it is something that if you're interested in pushing your athletics career forward, that you should embrace, because strength training and nutrition is important. And if you look at that, then it is a case where they should pay focus on it. One of the things, Lisa, that I think is very, very critical is the mental state of our athletes. One of the national athletes would have mentioned the fact that a sports psychologist is required. And I am moved to think that soon the National Sports Council will have a sports psychologist on board. And this particular individual should be able to work with our national athletes or national teams in terms of providing that stability as it relates to the mental preparation of athletes for competition and competition at the higher level.
My response to that, though, would be, why haven't we had a sports psychologist if we're serious about sports?
Yeah, I let me say that I agree with you. I believe that one should have been in place a long time ago. I was surprised that NEN is attached to the National Sports Council, but I believe it is something that is absolutely needed and not something that is needed tomorrow. It should have been there from yesterday. So I'm working to see how we can source that person, maybe on a retainer process or maybe to have them work fully with the National Sports Council. But it is a critical component of our athletes and how they succeed in competition outside of Barbados, or if they're playing in Barbados at the national level. The mental preparation is just as important as the physical preparation.
Now, sporting action was for the most part decimated during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic for about 2 years, which saw several restrictions introduced. Let's take a look back at how COVID-19 impacted sports.
Yeah.
Not only the spectators, but the athletes as well.
Yeah, look, COVID had a major impact on sports in this country, to the extent where some athletes who were national players, their career came to an end during that 2-year period of COVID. And it is unfortunate because, these are persons who had an opportunity to represent country, who were in some cases looking maybe for professional contracts off island. But that 2 years of inactivity would have put paid to that. So they're now spectators like you and I in relation to sports. In addition to that, a number of the national federations had to, in some cases, start over from scratch, because the activity that was there before, during those 2 years, that would have allowed athletes to hone their skills. It is almost a case of, if you are not single-minded in terms of keeping up your training at home or doing what is necessary to stay fit, that you would have been really, really disadvantaged during the 2 years. I saw our juniors at Usain Bolt, and they were involved in a program that persons were critical of, that our youngsters were doing these distances. But when I spoke to the organizers, they said, this was required for them to get back into the athletics at a certain level. So instead of 100s, they were running 400s, and people were critical, but you're not supposed to have the youngsters. But the persons who were involved indicated that it was necessary.
Did you think that government gave enough support to the sporting fraternity during that time?
Well, I believe we did. I believe we did what was necessary and all that was possible. There was not a lot that could have been done. I know some of the schools took the proactive approach of providing keep fit classes online for their athletes. Government would have done all that was necessary, which was, provide resources to do that. We have just, Lisa, our gym, we have just restructured the gym at the gymnasium. And this is in place for all athletes now from the national federations to go and engage in strength training to prep them for competition. So if you're a national athlete and you had to pay $400 or $500 at a gym of your own money to train, now that is a saving for you because you can go to the gym at the Cigar Field Service Complex and be involved in the activity there.
No, cricket is major for the average Barbadian. And you're looking at training a number of our groundsmen because they're critical to the cure of the pitches.
Yes.
Tell me about that program.
Yes, well, look, cricket is one of the planks as well in the national sports policy. It's one of the areas that we figure, Barbados is known for producing excellence as far as cricket is concerned. One of the concerns was the fact that a lot of the grounds were not prepared properly. And one of the things that government did through the National Sports Council was to stage a groundsman training program where in excess of 40 persons would have sourced training to be involved in the preparation of these grounds. One of the things we're looking at as well is that maybe we can again look to export some of these expertise that we are preparing, because we believe that not only here should we be preparing our sporting persons in terms of those particular fields that are outside of actually playing. And the groundsman training was one such initiative. And it was successful. Persons would have completed the program. Every single person who started the program completed the program, which is a plus. So we're hoping to see a better quality of cricket across the island. And it's not only at the cricket grounds, but we're hoping that, again, corporate Barbados would utilize the skill sets of these guys who would have trained to keep around the facilities. So it is not only sports, but they can, transcend sports and use the skill sets in other areas.
And since we're talking about cricket and the lifting of restrictions, we're seeing a number of competitions restarting again.
Yes, it is good to know that St. John would have been in the finals in one of those competitions. So that is a good thing. But yes, we have competition going again. I have asked the National Sports Council to look at the Herman Griffith competition, which is a feeding ground, so to speak, for clubs. This is a competition at the primary school level. And we're hoping next year this competition will be restarted. The coaches from the National Sports Council, they're tasked at going to the different primary schools to ensure that those primary schools are involved in this particular competition. It was missed for the 2 years again of COVID. That would have impacted. But we will be back on stream in 2023 and be hoping that not only the National Sports Council, but I'm asking for those clubs who are functioning close to the primary schools to give back, to have one or two of their players come out and work with the primary schools in terms of preparing them for this particular competition. The Sports Council will do what they have to do in terms of that. But I think that if we have these clubs come to the fore and provide some training for these primary schools, that it would be a good thing. Because not only that, but the fact that the primary schools are close to them, they can have their junior program now feeding into the primary schools feeding into their junior program to strengthen them going forward.
We spoke a lot about young people and young athletes, but the island has also produced some very good senior athletes as well. The level of support there's also criticism there, Minister, that not enough is being done. Yes,
we have heard the voices of a need to engage our seniors. And recently the Sports Council would have, we staged a program at Bronx Beach, Swim for Life, where we had about 300 plus seniors 3 days a week engage in swimming program. I was recently at the graduation, so to speak, and I heard persons bragging about swimming out to see turtles, and persons saying that they will invite anyone to be involved in the process. So sports, yes, is normally the domain of the young people, but we are all inclusive. And what we did was to have this program for our seniors because we believe that they need to stay active. And I'm told that swimming is one of those exercises that provide maximum benefit to the body. So this is a program that will continue. On October 17th. We will have the second cohort of our seniors at Bronx Beach engaging in this Swim for Life program again.
The last portion of your portfolio deals with community empowerment. However, several community centers and pavilions across the island are in a state of disrepair and cannot be used, at least not used adequately?
Yes. I'm aware that we have a lot of work to do as it relates to the community centers. And we have started a maintenance program where a number of those same community centers that you would have mentioned are being repaired. Some have been completed to date, but the repair process is ongoing. Recently, Cabinet would have approved the starting of what we call the center management committees. And the center management committees are there to buttress what is happening through community development. We have 43 community centers across the island. We have 19 community aids. So there's definitely a shortfall in terms of matching those community aids to centers. The center management committee is going to be made up of 9 persons drawn from within the community where these community centers are located. One of the things that they will be mandated to do is to extend the opening hours of these community centers, because we have realized that in the evening, after work, is a period where these community centers should be in operation to have maximum use of the facilities. So the center management committees will come in and they will open centers in the afternoon up to as late as 11 o'clock to provide training, to provide an opportunity for the community to get involved in drama, in dance, in other social activities that are required to build the capacity of communities. We have asked that youth groups be part of the process. Actually, one member of every single center management committee must be drawn from a youth group within the area, because part of the process of empowering communities is to have community life going again through community groups. It is one of those ways that you can provide structured activities for youngsters within the community after school, and to develop them in terms of, the full person, where they get to be members of the executive, they get to engage in structured activity that they themselves have identified that they want to get involved in. So yes, we're working to repair all of our community centers. We have some locations where we believe that the community centers should be expanded to provide a better environment for more activities to take place. We're in the process of trying to trigger cultural programs across the island, and we can only do that if we have all of our community centers up and running. In some cases, we will utilize the schools that are within the communities, but primarily the focus is to have these training programs, these cultural programs within the community centers.
Could you tell me some more about these cultural programs that you're looking to bring?
Right. Right now, the 2 programs that we're looking to push is dance and drama, because we believe that there's a need to have, this cultural rebirth. And we are working in concert with the National Cultural Foundation to ensure that we can start these programs again. Now, these are programs that were running at the ministry before. I mentioned dance and drama, but the reality of the situation is that the scope for training under the cultural program is broad. So you can find dressmaking, you can find flower arranging, these type of activities, drumming. These are the type of activities, when I speak to cultural activities within the community and within the community centers, that we're looking to have going again at community level across the country.
How would you respond to persons who say that community life in Barbados is, for the most part, dead?
No, I would not agree with that at all. The youth commissioners here at the ministry are running projects at community as well. And like I said, we have just started in excess of 40 new community groups. And these community groups are provided with training from here at the ministry to strengthen them as well. So you have youth leaders training that are geared specifically towards community groups to provide them with an opportunity to see what is out there and how they can, in some cases, source funding from agencies that would provide an opportunity for them to excel and to impact at their community level. So I would not agree that community life is dead. I'm saying COVID would have pushed a lot of people indoors, but we're back now, we're outdoors again, and I believe that community life, you'll see it bubbling again. And the ministry is in the forefront of doing that through the Community Development Department.
Minister, that was a brilliant point to end on. Thank you so much for speaking to us and joining us on the program today.
Thank you. The pleasure was mine.
Thank you. That was the Minister of Youth, Sport and Community Empowerment, the Honorable Charles Griffith. I'm Lisa Lord. You are watching 101. Do have yourself a wonderful evening.